Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost as if the left or Democrats or peaceful protesters or anarchists, people on the far left, it's almost as if they're working to re-elect President Trump. I'm supporting President Trump. He's a great president. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. In 2016, I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I have a president in Trump who is doing everything and will do or continue to do what I thought Bernie Sanders would have done in 2016, signed prison reform legislation, which is interesting because Rand Paul is at the forefront of that, and we'll get to that, the hypocrisy in a moment, of protesters or people who want to intimidate one of the few Republicans or one of the most vocal Republicans on the topic of prison reform legislation and criminal justice reform. Shows you that they're almost trying their best to re-elect President Trump, which is great. President Trump has officially ended our involvement in America's longest-running military conflict in late February, early March. He immediately, when he became president, almost immediately stopped funding the same rebels that President Obama was funding. He was the first president to step foot in North Korea, begin détente between North and South Korea. No president has ever done that. But mainly, he is setting the foundation to bring our soldiers home, to end never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. This is what I thought Bernie Sanders would have done before he folded in 2 seconds after he was cheated and then blamed Russia. So and then that's another issue. You have President Trump going after very corrupt intelligence officials. We already know one is indicted, Kevin Kleinsmith, for setting up and framing him. You have to be the biggest imbecile on the planet to think that that Trump won because of Facebook ads that nobody saw and that nobody can describe. Which Facebook ad swung voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin? I'd like to know. Then they say, well, the DNC emails were a plot by Russia. Yes, Putin wanted everyone to know that Bernie Sanders was cheated. We can go on forever. No, the left is so incompetent that even if Trump wasn't a great president, they'd still re-elect him because of their absolute foolishness. But you have this, I did a live stream last night. Be here on my live streams every evening at 9 p.m. Pacific. And by the way, I have a wonderful plaque here. It's actually, I'm a supporter now of the 1199 Foundation. This is a foundation that helps families, especially families of fallen officers who lost their lives in the line of duty during their work for the California Highway Patrol. This is the CHP philanthropic organization for the California Highway Patrol. They're really awesome. I'll put a link below. And I actually, if there's an imbecile on the left that's trying to say, oh, H.A. Goodman is making a statement here, my only statement is the families of these heroes, and the California Highway Patrol does a lot. Not just law; they're a lot, obviously law enforcement, but if your car breaks down or if you have an accident, God forbid, hundreds and hundreds of miles of freeways and highways throughout California, they're there to help you. So they do a lot, and it's not they do they're a law enforcement agency, obviously, but they do a heck of a lot. Protect you from drunk drivers, all these things. And so this is actually a really, really wonderful organization that I applied for. You have to have a background check. So I applied for this to be a member of the organization or to donate to the organization. You have to actually have a background check. So this was 3-4 months of a process, and I finally got the plaque. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, I'll put the link below. So I just wanted to tell you when you see the plaque, that's what it's about, and I'll put the link below if anybody watching wants to donate to the 1199 Foundation. It is really a great organization. But ladies and gentlemen, and I am donating to this amazing organization, but I also understand that Eric Garner was murdered in New York in 2014. I understand that George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis in 2020. These are blue states. I understand that there are people, bad apples within every industry, including within every aspect of life. And so you can support law enforcement, but at the same time saying, there are certain individuals that break the law. And, so I understand this, but Democrats spent 4 years obsessing over Russia and Facebook ads and Trump interfering in the election because he wanted the Ukraine to investigate Biden. And then just recently, what if George Floyd had not been murdered in Minneapolis? Do you think they would be focusing on this? Of course not. Democrats look at everything from just pure political utility, but they take advantage of the emotion and the pain and the anguish and the suffering of people throughout the country. But that's another story. You ask yourself, what is the point of peaceful protesting, setting buildings ablaze, and roaming the streets at night in Oregon, in Washington, in Wisconsin, in Georgia, in Illinois? What's the point? What is the point of $1.4 billion in property damage? That's one insurance estimate nationwide. What is the point of 10,000 arrests? Democrats just recently unveiled a legislation. Just recently, after 2 years, they had the House. And after 4 years of President Trump, even when they didn't control the House, they could have made that police reform an important topic, an important platform. They didn't. Why? Before George Floyd couldn't breathe, Eric Garner couldn't breathe. But they didn't do anything. The point is, they have all of this emotion, and they have this belief that they're morally superior. And because they're morally superior, they can intimidate, and they can bully, and they can try to silence, and they can try to either physically assault, or try to frighten, or try to annoy, or just insult somebody to their face, simply because they feel that their political side is morally superior, or on the side of justice, or on the side of history. They're the biggest hypocrites on the planet. You have President Obama, who not only destroyed Libya in a failed NATO intervention, you have all the Bush administration neoconservatives in the Lincoln Project now being retweeted by the same liberals who once, we assume, opposed them. Then you have people saying, well, my God, climate change. It was a Green New Deal resolution. It wasn't even legislation. And then when Mitch McConnell forced them to vote on it, most of the Democrats voted either, was it present, or we wouldn't even vote on it. And then you had some Democrats voting against it in the Senate. And the resolution, it was a public relations stunt. But you have Rand Paul, who is at the forefront always of criminal justice reform. He literally penned legislation to prevent no-knock raids, which was the reason he did so is because of what happened to Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. But again, this is lost upon. And Rand Paul was right. He called them idiots. The people who were yelling at him and intimidating him and threatening to end his life. See, Democrats view things in the following manner. We don't like your policy. We are the ones who are morally superior, even though George Floyd and Eric Garner lost their lives in blue states, the blue state of New York and Minnesota. You want to talk about the pandemic? New York and New Jersey have almost 40,000 people who've lost their lives. Okay? So the response from President Trump, and you can add about 8 to 9 blue states run by Democratic governors. That is, you can look at the New York Times, in aggregate, over half of all the lives lost are in about 8 to 9 Democratic-run states. In the entire country, we have 50 states. But Democrats think they're morally superior when it comes to every issue. But on the issue of criminal justice reform, it was President Trump who signed the First Step Act. It was President Trump who signed the First Step Act. It was President Trump who could have vetoed, by the way, if he's a racist, why is he allocated more money to more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any other president, including President Obama? Why didn't he veto the First Step Act if he's such a horrible racist? So he's really bad at being racist, but you have Alice Johnson, Alice Murray Johnson, who was pardoned by President Trump, and you have an individual whose life, thank God, benefited from the First Step Act, and you have other people who've been wrongfully and unjustly incarcerated. But you can look at Kamala Harris's. You have Democrats or liberals or progressives or whatever surrounding Rand Paul, their vice president, right? It'll be Hillary Clinton. It ain't going to be Biden, because this charade is coming to an end. Clinton is the only chance they have, and I've been saying this forever, and I will have made the biggest political call of all time. That's a political machine, ladies and gentlemen. Hillary Clinton at least has the enthusiasm and grassroots support. She's the only chance they possibly have, and President Trump's going to go 8 years. It'll be very easy with Biden. It might get close with Clinton. But you have these people surrounding Rand Paul. Rand Paul has done more for prison reform, criminal justice reform than anything Kamala Harris has ever done. Kamala Harris is actually known for unjust incarcerations, for wrongfully convicting. There's about 5 people who were linked to wrongful convictions. And then she actually fought to pay money to a person of color who was wrongfully convicted. She fought the payments to this individual, and there was 1,000 cases thrown out in Northern California while she was an attorney, because the crime lab in Northern California had an individual, a technician, that was taking the narcotics home for personal use. So Kamala Harris's history on injustice and inequities is a long history. Then you have Biden, who helped write the crime bill, which ushered in the era of mass incarceration. And then you have these people surrounding Rand Paul, who is known for his work on criminal justice reform. But you can't expect any basic logic from people who run purely on emotion. The left is pure emotion. When they say Trump is a racist, that is a very vapid opinion, not based on facts. Because if you base it only on what he said, Chuck Schumer, Clinton, they've all said similar things, if not worse. And only President Trump signed the First Step Act and presided over allocating more funding to historically black colleges than any other president ever. And President Obama's failed NATO intervention destroyed a country in Libya. And the same things that have been taking place took place all throughout President Obama's administration. All throughout President Obama's administration, and Democrats did nothing. They've obsessed over Russia for 4 years. That's about it. But my point, though, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have a situation where you have about 30 to 40 people who wanted to intimidate Rand Paul. And they did so because they're so ignorant, they don't realize that he actually is on the side of criminal justice reform, prison reform legislation, trying to end no-knock raids, so you don't have a situation like Breonna Taylor, who was murdered in her own home. That's Rand Paul trying to fix that issue. It's not Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. But see, again, what Democrats and people on the left do, their focus is number one, don't debate. Don't debate. In fact, they don't even want Biden to debate Trump. Gee, I wonder why. Hillary Clinton's going to be on that debate stage. It ain't going to be Biden. Biden would get eaten alive. They're petrified to have Biden debate. But don't debate. Just level the most irrational, illogical, nonsensical allegations. Trump is a racist. He's a traitor. It's like even Trump never worked with Russia to buy Facebook ads, but that wouldn't even make him a traitor. The DNC has nothing to do with the United States government, number one, and there was no military confrontation with Russia, number two. Russia, well, I thought President Obama said the Cold War is over. The 80s want their foreign policy back. And then President Obama did not veto the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity. So Putin got 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, a fact according to Snopes, because only President Obama could have vetoed the sale. They're so proud and saying, well, Clinton couldn't have vetoed the sale. Yeah, and Snopes' article says, well, President Obama could have vetoed the sale. Why didn't he? Why didn't he? Oh, so 20% of U.S. uranium capacity in mines in Utah, that is more egregious than Facebook ads that nobody saw. Can any Democrat name a Facebook ad or a Twitter bot that sent them from Trump to Clinton? No, of course not. Of course not. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, they're almost working on Trump's behalf. They're so inept, and they're such imbeciles, and they're so foolish that they think intimidating Rand Paul, who's really actually on their side, is a good strategy. That's what they do. They hide behind Twitter profiles. They probably touch themselves in ecstasy, trying to mock and denigrate people. You look at the top pundits on the left, top YouTube channels on the left in politics. They're only focused on talking about how Trump is backwards and how Republicans or conservatives are ignorant and bigoted and how they're morally righteous and then how they're not racist, but Trump people are racist. But they're not talking about Biden. Nobody's talking about Biden. Why do you think that is? Biden has zero enthusiasm. The only enthusiasm they have is from a lot of emotion derived from, unfortunately, a lot of chaos and mayhem. And that's not even really enthusiasm. There's nothing good that comes from violence or mayhem or chaos. It only helps President Trump. So you're looking at President Trump. If he was, I always was saying he's going to win swing states, no problem. He'll be president. I called the 2016 election in 2015. NPR quoted me, the article's below. But if you think it was going to be close and Democrats are all giddy, the mail-in ballots, we're going to get that surge of voters and take us over the top. You watch, you're going to see a lot more people, and President Trump could get close to the popular vote. With New York and California, it's like virtually impossible now for any Republican, not just President Trump. They say, well, he won the popular vote. The way politics is in the United States today, there's no way any Republican, if Trump didn't get the popular vote or he doesn't get the popular vote, and he was outspent 2-1. So we'll see. Gary Johnson took 4.5 million votes from President Trump. So we'll see. But it's possible. But he'll win the Electoral College, which is what you have to win. Notice how they want to do away with the Electoral College, but they want state primaries. The Democrats have state primaries. If they ran purely popular vote, Bernie Sanders would have won. But, of course, they cheated Bernie Sanders in Iowa in 2020. Oh, of course, I'm sorry. That's a statement, that's a claim without evidence. Okay, it's very likely that something was fishy about an app that took, 2 or 3 days to finally say, okay, yeah, Bernie Sanders was second, Mayor Pete was first. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. The whole thing, The left, Democrats, liberals, progressives, the way they view life is we are morally superior, so we can intimidate, and we're doing it for justice and virtue, and we've given ourselves a license to physically assault or intimidate or demean or harass people because we're on the side of right. We're on the side of goodness. They've convinced themselves of this because of their immense arrogance and narcissism. At the end of the day, it's only going to help President Trump. God bless Rand Paul and his wife and his family. This is like the second time this has happened to him. But, ladies and gentlemen, be here tonight, 9 p.m. Pacific, for my live stream. And if you want to support my voice long term, I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like some people. My Patreon is below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, it's heating up. President Trump's going to go 8 years. I'm on my way to making the biggest political call of all time. That alone is a great call. President Trump going 8 years. That'll be 2 straight elections I called. But Hillary Clinton is going to be on that debate stage. She'll be on that ballot. She's the only chance they have. Give me your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.